Lecture 6, Mapping Pennsylvania Music. When gazing down from where we stand, we might say we live in a green-blue globe floating through outer space. No human lives at such a planetary distance, though. We live our lives within a specific bioregion with waterways, flora and fauna, weather patterns, and ways of living life. Culture. Civically, I might point out that I live in the United States, and more specifically, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Perhaps this Commonwealth is a good place to take stock of music. Here. Designated as a Commonwealth in 1776 alongside Virginia, PA residents classified themselves as such to emphasize the ideal of the common good, placing emphasis on democratic principles such as natural rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and due process. Realistically, the four Commonwealth, Massachusetts and Kentucky, labeled themselves more recently, have not emphasized the common good notably more or less than non-Commonwealth states. Nonetheless, in considering Pennsylvania, including the musics of PA, that ideal of the common good ought to be kept in the back of our mind. Pennsylvania's cultural character and its history as one of the 13 original colonies has shaped a particular musical culture. Today, PA folk are approximately 74% white, 10% black, 8% Hispanic, 4% Asian, and 4% multiracial. This diversity yields energy for the Commonwealth music today. Whether produced in large cities like Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, or smaller neighborhoods like Lock Haven, Mill Hall, Renova, or Michelhaven. During the U.S. colonial, revolutionary, and early national eras, Pennsylvania music followed European trends. In the classical period, 1750 to 1820, Philadelphia saw several lesser-known composers, including John Christopher Muller, 1755 to 1803, Alexander Reinagel, 1756 to 1809, and Rainer Taylor, 1747 to 1825. Many of these composers lived in Pennsylvania and Europe. Muller, born in Germany, worked as an organist and composer in Philadelphia and New York. Reinagel was born in England and worked in Scotland, New York, and Philadelphia. One of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, Francis Hopkinson, 1737 to 1791, lived in Philadelphia, New Jersey, worked as a lawyer and designed Continental paper money, and was a music composer. Rainer Taylor was born in London, England, notably singing for the funeral of George Frederick Handel in 1759 as a boy. He immigrated to the U.S. in 1792, composing music in Baltimore, Annapolis, and Philadelphia. Listen to a little of Rainer Taylor's variation on Adeste Fidelis. During the 19th century, Pennsylvania songwriter Stephen Foster, 1826 to 1864, became one of the most popular songwriters of the century. His more than 200 songs are labeled folk music and parlor music, a type of popular music intended to be performed in parlors by amateur singers and pianists. Foster's music was disseminated as sheet music, as many upper-middle-class family members studied piano and singing. He was influenced by African American music. Foster's popularity faded from the public's eye by the 1900s, and was evident with the advent of the gramophone and radio. Some of the most popular songs included "Oh Susanna," "Camptown Races," "Swanee River," "Jeannie with the Light Brown Hair," "Beautiful Dreamer," "Old Black Joe," and My Old Kentucky Home." My Old Kentucky Home is Kentucky's state song and is sung each year, even today, at the Kentucky Derby. We'll listen to the American singer, actor, football player, and activist Paul Robeson, himself with deep ties to Pennsylvania, including living in Philadelphia and being the namesake for Penn State University's Cultural Center, singing "Old Black Joe." Perhaps the most famous songwriter of the 19th century, the century that saw the abolition movement, the U.S. Civil War, Reconstruction, and then Jim Crow laws, a century in which minstrel shows were popular music, Stephen Foster had a complex relationship with African Americans and African American music. On one hand, he was inspired deeply by African American music. On the other, many of his lyrics are hateful and racist, which ought not be minimized or neglected when singing his music. For more than a century, the Oakland neighborhood of Pittsburgh housed a bronze monument to Foster, which featured him with a barefoot black man playing banjo at his feet. After more than 30 years of criticism, the 800-pound statue was removed in 2018. I walked by this monument many times in my years of teaching in the Pittsburgh public schools, and thought it was a particularly inappropriate image. Though I was living in Central PA by the time of its removal, I accepted it as desirable. A restoration of Foster's log house still stands in Oakland and preserves the city's historical memory of the 19th century's treasured songwriter, most treasured songwriter, without uplifting the more problematic monument. An approach to Foster's music, subsequently, ought not be to expunge Foster from history, but to present history as much as practical as it happened, warts and all. Never to celebrate musicians as if they were perfect angels, but to uncover both good and bad. No history of PA music would be complete if Foster were erased, because his complex relationship with race illustrates Pennsylvania's own complex history around race. There's nothing simple or common about any place's history, but understanding and appreciating our musical history can improve our lives and our communities. The 19th century also saw, in Pennsylvania and elsewhere in the U.S., the rise of the community band and community choir movements. These ensembles are composed of volunteer musicians in a particular town, neighborhood, or city. Community music ensembles serve communities by offering citizens outlets for musical expression and community engagement. The United States' oldest community band, the Allentown Band, was founded in 1828. The oldest community choir is the Old Stoughton Musical Society of Massachusetts. The Allentown Band in Pennsylvania performed for Presidents Martin Van Buren in 1839, Abraham Lincoln in 1861, Theodore Roosevelt in 1901, and Jimmy Carter in 1975. And has recorded more than 31 albums. Local community ensembles include the Central Pennsylvania Community Band, the Lock Haven Community Chorus, and the Bellefonte Community Band. Pennsylvania also was a cornerstone in popular music of the 20th century. In the 1960s and 70s, the Philly sound defined soul music for a generation and was characterized by its funk influences with rich string and horn arrangements. Some of the acts that came to characterize the Philly sound were Patti LaBelle, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, the O'Jays, the Stylistics, Teddy Pendergrass, and Billy Paul. We'll listen to Billy Paul, Me and Mrs. Jones, the official Soul Train video. The Philly sound was eventually displaced by disco music in the late 1970s, which was itself superseded by punk and new wave music. Jazz music has a rich history in Pennsylvania, with an uncommon collection of performers including Billie Holiday, Nina Simone, Stan Getz, McCoy Tyner, Lee Morgan, Stanley Clarke, all from Philadelphia, Ethel Waters from Chester, and John Coltrane and Dizzy Gillespie, each living in Philadelphia. Pittsburgh gave birth to Errol Gardner, Ahmad Jamal, Mary Lou Williams, Art Blakey, Stanley Turrentine, Ray Brown, George Benson, and others. Jimmy Smith was from Norristown. Keith Jarrett was born in Allentown. Joe Pass in Johnstown. Gene Ludwig in Twin Rocks and Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey were from Schuylkill County. Classical composers Samuel Barber and George Crumb also hailed from Pennsylvania, Westchester and Media, respectively. Musicians from PA have played part in many styles of popular music, including in the 1950s with Bill Haley and his Comets, Chester. The 1970s and 80s with Hall & Oates, Philadelphia, The Vogues, Turtle Creek, Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff, Philadelphia, Donnie Iris, Elwood City, Poison, Mechanicsburg, and Tammy Terrell, Philadelphia. The 1990s saw the musical careers of Boyz II Men, Philadelphia, Nine Inch Nails, Mercer, Live, York, The Clarks, Indiana, Christina Aguilera, Wexford, and Rusted Root, Pittsburgh. Today, popular music acts from Pennsylvania include Breaking Benjamin, Wilkes-Barre, Wiz Khalifa, Pittsburgh, Hailstorm, Red Lion, Christina Perri, Philadelphia, Pink, Doylestown, and Taylor Swift, Wyomissing. Pennsylvania's uncommon traditions have produced a wide variety of musicians who have influenced many genres. With such a variety of music, it can be challenging to make a unified statement about the Commonwealth musical map. However, a theme emerges, diversity, which suggests Pennsylvania may be seen as an assortment of places and people. Geographically, Philadelphia is defined by the Delaware and Schuylkill rivers, a large city on flat coastal plains typical of the East Coast. Pittsburgh is situated on the hilly Allegheny Plateau, at the confluence of the Allegheny and Monongahela rivers, forming the base of the Ohio River. It is interesting that Pittsburgh, the city of bridges, has been called alternately the gateway to the Midwest and the unofficial capital of Appalachia. Central PA is characterized by mountainous terrain, abundant forests, the Susquehanna River and its tributaries, by small rural neighborhoods, and to the south, more of a mix of mountainous terrain and fertile valleys, which with folk of African, British and Irish, Hispanic, Asian, Eastern, and Southern European descent, the Pennsylvania Dutch, and other distinctive communities making their lives on such diverse terrain, it seems reasonable that the emerging musics would also be varied.